Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Only one type of burger. For every pallet. Fries are extra. Large in size. We've got the shakes. Going over the brim.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. Put a positive, delicious spin on your day at any one of our 5 locations. In Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, or Harriman. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends. Nice. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, let's get it, folks. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. 12:05. Hope you all had a tremendous weekend. Hopefully you were able to sit back and just lounge on the couch and watch some basketball and watch a Duke meltdown, because, come on, who doesn't enjoy that? Who doesn't enjoy seeing a team fall apart and it's named Duke?
Everybody loves that, except for it might make people a little bit grumpy, only for a second if they pick Duke. But then you got to go back to be like, you know what? That's what makes it great. That's what's enjoyable. Even if it wrecks your bracket, it doesn't matter.
That's what. All right, so there's a listener to the show who shall go nameless, but let's just say Lloyd. He could make both of us disappear in the middle of the night, and with a blink of or with a snap of a finger, and we'd be toast. That's the kind of power this guy holds. And last night he texted me and he said, this just wrecked my perfect Final Four. I would have had a perfect Final Four if not for this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but were you not entertained? And I think, yeah, the entertainment value for him, and I think for everybody else, definitely overrules a bracket.
I would have had 3 of the 4 had Duke made it. I would have had 3 of the 4.
What a game.
It was a heck of a game.
Just, look, that's why I love the NCAA tournament, because it's not the NBA, in meaning that you still have some kids. Now, granted, they're well-paid kids now, but they're still kids. All right, the frontal lobe's still being developed, so they're going to do some stupid stuff. So you will have a bunch of WTF moments mixed in with some OMG moments, and you just sit back and just be like, I love this. How great is this? Because you have enough of the bonehead stuff and the craziness that goes along with a great play. Like, yeah, Boozer, what are you doing, man? You can't be making that pass. But then you go over there and you look at John Scheyer and the coach, and he's like pointing forward. Like,
had 2 guys who were on that side of the court.
Like moving forward. Like, wait, what? No, you tell him to hold on to that ball and take the foul. I don't care if he's a crappy foul shooter or not. You hold that ball, you take the foul, and then you go up and look, if you make 1 free throw, then you can foul up 3 and you win the game. If you make 2, then it's definitely over. But
you could have nearly just thrown it up straight up in the air, and you might have been safe.
Yes.
And let the time nearly run out.
Oh, man. It was that was something. That was something. And I was and this is what I love. And I know, Lloyd, you've got kids that are young, too. When you're watching a game with an impressionable youth, you know that they're going to remember that game forever. Like, I remember being like, I don't know, I was 10, 11, 12 maybe, when Christian Laettner hit the shot over Kentucky. And by the way, Rick Pitino references that game all the time. That game was almost 40 years ago, and Rick Pitino talks about it like it was yesterday. You don't think these coaches get scarred by those kind of moments? John Scheyer will remember this game for as long as he lives. Rick Pitino remembers that Christian Laettner game, the turnaround jumper from the free throw line. He references it all the time. Why? Because it scarred him. And if you're a kid out there that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I know that's kind of the age of Xavier. My kid's 14. Like, that's what makes you a sports fan, watching moments like that, especially when you don't have skin in the game and you're just watching it as a fan. It's awesome. Now, if you're a Duke fan, boo freaking who, nobody cares. No, but if you're a Duke fan, like, okay, yeah, that hurts you bad. And if you're a UConn fan, it's one of the singular greatest moments of your life. But for all of us out there that just enjoy great sports, man.
Now, let's just say it, by the way, Dan Hurley is a psychopath.
Oh, he is a psychopath.
That guy is a nut job.
Look, I think that we know enough about Dan Hurley to know that you're never going to root for the guy. If you don't know anything about him, if you're not close to him, you'll never root for Dan Hurley. Never. You can't bring yourself to root for a guy like that. But if he was willing to coach your team, would you take him?
Oh,
in
of
a
course.
freaking second,
Yeah,
you would.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you would.
Who, after you just win a game, who goes and puts their forehead into a referee? Who does that?
Nobody.
You just won.
You won.
Why would you even do anything like that?
It almost feels like he like has to now. Like
That's who I am.
In his mind, he's like, well, I built up this reputation of who I am, so now I've got to act like this. The guy's a buffoon. There's no getting around it.
I so badly wanted that. Just not for my bracket's sake, but just to put him in his place a little bit. Just I wanted them to be like a technical foul right there where they had to shoot.
Yep. I'm with you.
Or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's what, from what I understand, that's what Duke, I haven't heard the play-by-play, but apparently that's what the Duke broadcasters were asking for. Of course. Why wouldn't you? But, like, you just won a game. You should be jumping up and down, getting Gatorade thrown on you or whatever their drink of choice is, and celebrating, yet you go find the referee and put your head right into his head.
And just mean mug him, too.
Just mean mug
You don't
him.
even say anything.
No. And it's like, why? You just won, dude.
Oh, how great would that be had they teed him up? Ooh, the place would have melted
would
down.
Would have been chaos.
Would have melted down.
And the type of chaos that I'm here for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But I love the chaos that happened in that game. That was amazing.
Yes.
That was what March Madness is all about. We're trying to remember the other game that was kind of similar to that was the Kentucky-Santa Clara game earlier this.
Oh, yeah.
Where they had their comeback and, you had them hitting a near half-court shot to send it into overtime. I wanted Kentucky, obviously, to lose because that's one of those blue bloods that you just want to lose. And it's like that's what with my kids, I'm like, that's what it's about. Those games right there. Those are the fun things right there.
These are the moments that make the NCAA tournament collectively the greatest tournament in all of sports. Now, look, I love the NFL playoffs. I love the NBA. But to have this magnitude of chaos at this level and the amount of games, like you get quantity, you get quality, you get, like I mentioned, OMG and WTF moments that are just right and left. Like this is it, folks. This is as good as it gets. Now, look, if you want the best basketball and you want the best athletes on the planet, yeah, you're going to enjoy the NBA and you're going to love the NBA playoffs. But more often than not, the best team's going to win. Best of 7 series pretty much guarantees that more often than not, the best team is going to find a way to get it done. So you will have individual drama for sure. You'll have LeBron with a chase down block and the Cavs coming back from 3-1 against the Warriors. Like there's always those signature moments. Don't get me wrong. Love it. And if you're looking for just pure, beautiful basketball, that's your game. But if you're just looking for straight chaos, the NCAA tournament, that's your jam right there. That's where it's at. That's what makes it so special is just the sheer ridiculousness of what you may see every single solitary night. All right, we got a lot to get to. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. There's a new sheriff up in town in Cache Valley. Let's talk about it. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to kick off the show with the biggest headlines of the day. This is your starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, starting lineup right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, you got your man if you're Utah State. This was an interesting one. Last night, social media was hopping that it was going to be Mark Madsen. And that was interesting. And really, Sometimes this is what you got to be careful about with social media these days, is that how quickly it can spread like wildfire. Rumors can turn into, and so there's these, this is what you got to be careful about. There was a radio guy here in Salt Lake City. Like, normally we all like each other. Honestly, we're competing. Like, Hans and I, we knew each other for a decade before we were able to do a show together, and we were super close. And we still are, even though he's not doing radio anymore, because we're just friends, right? That's my guy. And so you look across the board, there's a lot of guys that I've known that I've competed against forever on radio stations I've worked with. So most of us get along really, really well. In fact, all but one. There was one Jaco who came into this market nobody liked. And his big thing was that he would say he was right about all these stories. No, what he would do, and there's a lot of media guys that do this, not just to point out this jackwagon, but there were a lot of other guys. There are a lot of guys out there, national and local. What they'll do is they'll see the way that the wind is blowing, and then they'll come in over the top and say, like, well, I can confirm this, and this. When you know that it's pretty much going that way, and you have no sources, you have no indication of what's going on. And that's why, look, I will never claim to be a journalist anymore. Like, I dipped my toe in the water a little bit. It wasn't any fun. I didn't enjoy it. So, you know what? We're essentially content creators. We're just sports radio schmucks. We're not journalists, okay?
Entertainers.
We're entertainers. Yeah. We just try to make you laugh and have strong opinions about some things. So, but you'll see these, some of these guys that will come way over the top and say, oh, it's going to happen. So last night, there starts to be this social media uprising. I don't know where it started. I don't know where it originated from, but there was this element of Mark Madsen's going to be the new head coach at Utah State. I even had assistant coaches at other staffs reach out to me and tell me that they thought it was a done deal. And so I start texting people. I'm like, hey, this could be going down. This looks to be happening. And then I get a text from somebody who very much would be in the know and said, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I will tell you it's not Mark Madsen. And so it's like, oh, okay. Well, let's pump the brakes on that one. But it was really funny to see all of a sudden there was Cal insiders and other people that, other media members are like, well, I'm hearing it's all but done that he's the leading candidate. You don't know. So, again, that's why you got to be careful about this social media thing. A lot of times they're right. A lot of times this stuff starts brewing and it ends up coming to fruition. Sometimes it couldn't be further from the truth. One thing I can say is that I don't think Mark Madsen was ever in the mix. I don't think this was ever a case of Mark Madsen agreeing to terms with Utah State and then leveraging it for a new deal at Cal. From what I understand, I don't think Mark Madsen really was ever in the conversation. I don't think it was real. I don't think it ever had any substance to it whatsoever. So if somebody out there is saying, oh, it was done, no, it wasn't. It never was. Mark Madsen was never coming to Utah State. And frankly, I don't know how much Utah State even pursued Mark Madsen. I know there was very little to no conversations. Let's just say that. All right, so let's get to the guy who it is, Ben Jacobson. So the coach from Northern Iowa, and if you look at his resume, it's super impressive. Now, we all remember him leading Northern Iowa, about 14, 15 years ago to that Sweet 16 after they knocked off Kansas in the second round, a 9-1 upset to advance into the Sweet 16. Remember the crazy three-point shot with 20 seconds left when they're up 1 and they should run out the clock. Dude cranks the 3, puts them up 4, and essentially wins the game. By the way, that guy is now the head coach at Colorado State, so it'll be interesting to see those two battle each other in the new Pac-12. But tremendous coach. Look, you look at the resume, you look at the accolades. We can talk about what that means for Utah State. We can talk about what kind of success and style of play and all that other stuff. Look, there's time for that. We'll get to that. In fact, Cam Walker, athletic director at Utah State, is going to join us coming up at 1:05. Looking forward to chat with him as always. But I think if you're Utah State, you look at this and what does this mean? You've had a revolving door of coaches that have cycled through Utah State. And I've said this many, many times, and I'll continue to say it because it's kind of fun. Next year will mark my decade point of doing play-by-play for Utah State football and basketball. So 10 years, right? I got a full 10 years under my belt. Ben Jacobson will represent the 6th coach that I've worked with in 10 years. And only one of those guys was let go. That was Tim Duryea after my first year. Then I had 3 with Craig Smith. Then I had 2 with Ryan Odom. Then I had 1 with Danny Sprinkle. Then 2 with Jared Calhoun. And now Ben Jacobson. And the MO on the last 4 hires, Smith, Sprinkle, Odom, Calhoun, they all had all 4 of them had something in common. Okay, head coaches, young up-and-coming coaches. They didn't necessarily need to go to the NCAA tournament. Jared Calhoun had never been to a tournament. You go and look at Craig Smith at South Dakota. Never had been to an NCAA tournament. So you look at the 4 schools that they were coaching at, South Dakota, UMBC, Montana State, and Youngstown State. Not necessarily the who's who of college basketball. Now, I know UMBC had their moment in the sun when they knocked out Virginia, courtesy of Ryan Odom. But other than that, UMBC ever really moved the meter for you? Youngstown State really ever moved the meter for you? No, not really. Not at all. And so these were young, for the most part, I don't want to say unproven, but really kind of unknown commodities out there. And they've all come into Utah State, and they've all had tremendous success. Utah State's rolled the dice on 4 young coaches that were essentially unproven at that level of basketball. And they hit on all 4 of them. So you could say to yourself, well, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Here's the model. Guess what? You've rolled the dice 4 times. The chances of that hitting again, not necessarily great. You're going to get a dud eventually. It's just the law of averages. It's going to happen. And look, I'm not saying Ben Jacobson's going to be great. I don't know. But what I do know is that this Utah State has elevated itself as a program to where a guy who at Iowa, in Northern Iowa, and I know Northern Iowa isn't necessarily the who's who, but if you go back and you look at their resume, he's a 4-time Missouri Valley Coach of the Year. He's been to the NCAA tournament a bunch of times. He's been to the Sweet 16. He's got round 1 victories. Like, this is a well-established mid-major program where he could have finished out all of his days and ridden off into the sunset. They would have built a statue for him. They would have named the court after him. And he got to the point where he said, you know what? I want to elevate what I can do somewhere else. Where can I do that? At no point up until the last 3 or 4 years would he have looked at Utah State and said, that's where I can elevate myself. That's where I can elevate my opportunities to coach at a different level. So, again, I don't know what Ben Jacobson's going to do. We're all just going to wait and see together. If you're out there and you know how this is going to play out, you don't. It could be great. It could be a dud. I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a ride. But what you do know is that you as a program have elevated yourself to a point where that job becomes attractive at what would have been 10 years ago a path downward from Northern Iowa to Utah State. Now you're looking at as an increase in salary, an increase in NIL, an increase in exposure from a conference, increase in competition. Like, you go through all of those, and that's what Utah State has now. And I think that's something that you could sit back and say, all right, you take a lot of pride in that. And then you can evaluate him as a coach when the season starts. And you can evaluate him when the transfer portal opens. You can evaluate him in terms of retention. Retention is going to be really hard, though. It's just going to be hard. And I think in this day and age, you just kind of look, Utah State lost a coach to essentially, for 2 reasons. Number 1, to go home. Well, actually 3 reasons. Number 1, to go home. That's probably number 1. Number 2 is the pay increase. And number 3 is the fact that it's a Big 12 conference. So those are the 3 reasons why Jared Calhoun went to Cincinnati. Well, guess what? 2 out of those 3 reasons are why Ben Jacobson's going to Utah State. More money and a better conference. So, yeah, you could say you're a stepping stone, but also you're a step up from what would have been considered an equal or higher than mid-major program than Utah State has been. But as I mentioned, retention is going to be difficult. It just is. You're going to have guys that are going to be offered a ton of money. I was talking to an assistant coach at a university outside the state, and he said that these coaches are now using these computer programs because, frankly, there's a computer program for everything these days. Thank you, AI, in which they have all the numbers of all the players and what they're getting paid in NIL. And you essentially punch in your player, you punch in the stats, you punch in the accolades. I don't know how it works. But essentially, it will push out a value of what that player would get if they were on the open market, and what, if you were a suitor for that player, what you would expect to pay. It's a lot like, when you sell your home or you're buying a home, they look at comparables and they say, okay, well, this home had the same square footage, the same amount of bedrooms in this neighborhood, 2 cul-de-sacs over, so you could essentially put yourself in the same price range. They have that for college basketball players. Computer program spits it out, says, okay, here's your comp. Mason Falslev, this guy told me the comp on him, in terms of financials, over $3 million. Carson Templin, over $1 million. All right, so Ben Jacobson's got to go and say, okay, well, is it worth that? Do I need to do that kind of fundraising? That's a tough number to match. And if you do bring back some of those guys, which I am all in favor of, I'm not telling them how to build a team, but also you have to look at it from a building standpoint. This is professional sports now. What do professional teams do? They look at their players and say, okay, is it worth us to go out and bring that player back, or could we spend that money in different ways to help build a team? Now, I don't know the answer to that, but those are the conversations that are going to be happening, because if you're a team out there that's got $20 million to spend, $3 million doesn't move the meter a lot. All right. But if you're a team that's got $5 million to spend, $6 million, yeah, $3 million, that's 50% of your budget. That's going to do some damage. And what kind of team can you build outside of that? So those are the questions everybody wants to know. Well, is this guy going to come back? This guy going to come back? Look, there are only a few moments in your life where you really, truly have leverage. I was told that over and over and over again in this radio world. You only have 1, 2, maybe 3 times in your life where you have leverage. You have to use that to your advantage. All right? When you're sitting at a poker table, you don't get pocket aces very often. When you get pocket aces, you got to make them pay off. So, right now, if you're a player out there, if you're Mason Falslev, you're Carson Templin, you got pocket aces, all right, what are you going to do with them? How are you going to play them? Because ultimately, the game's going to end pretty quickly, whether it's overseas or the NBA, whatever the case is. You need to make sure that you are in the best situation. I'll never, ever get after a player or a coach for leaving for more money, because you never know when it's all going to end. All right, 12:26, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Cam Walker's going to join us coming up at 1:05. We'll take a trip back to the NCAA tournament. What a game last night, as our Final Four is now set. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Every day, the world gets a little weirder and a lot more awesome. Cool Stuff Daily takes a look at everything from mining in space to the latest in the fight against cancer to how AI is, basically changing everything. It's all the cool stuff you didn't know you needed to know. Join us for Cool Stuff Daily as we take a quick look at science, tech, and the wait, what stories that make you sound way smarter at dinner. Subscribe to Cool Stuff Daily now, because the future's happening fast, and it's way too fun to miss.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
72-70, Duke by 2. Sarr to key the inbound now. Full court pressure from UConn. Sarr gets it into Cam Boozer. Boozer back to Sarr. Now ahead to Caden Boozer, and UConn got a steal. Caravan for Mullins. Long three. He got it. Oh, he got it. He hit it. He hit the long three-pointer from the logo with 0.3 of a second left to go. I don't believe it. UConn has taken the lead.
Highlight courtesy Westwood 1, the game you heard right here on The Zone. Wow. That is, look, we've seen some crazy things in the NCAA tournament. That's a great thing about the tournament. There's always weird stuff that happens all the time. And it's awesome. I mean, make no mistake. It's what makes the tournament so much fun. We talked about that in the first segment. But with every crazy moment, with every great shot, there's always usually a screw-up. And that's what we saw last night. And look,
that screw-up, by the way, that one hits close to home.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, somewhere Carlos is grabbing his sons and saying, yeah, about that. Let's not be making that pass. But, as much as you look at the pass, if you look at the body language of John Scheyer is not essentially telling his guys, and maybe this isn't fair. Maybe I'm misreading the body language, but it sounds like John Scheyer's like, pass, get the ball down court, get it down court. When in reality, all he had to do was just buckle down and just hunker over the ball, take the foul, go to the free throw line, knock down 2, and the game's over. That's all you got to do. Don't be crazy out there. Don't be doing dumb things like that. But boy, did they ever, and boy, did it make them pay. I look at the who was the Grateful Dead-looking dude that played at Gonzaga? Adam Morrison. Go back, for all you kids out there, Google Adam Morrison, Gonzaga, UCLA. That is another classic meltdown. Zags, and I think that was a
best player in the country, I think, that year.
Yeah, he was. And I think that took them, I think that was a Sweet 16 game to go to the Elite 8. I can't remember, but essentially Gonzaga had a lead, and they just blew it down the stretch. Just absolutely blew it. This was probably 06, 07, somewhere around there. So, I mean, we're 20 years out from that. So that's another monumental meltdown. But the fact is, you've had Duke in back-to-back years with a meltdown against Houston, a game they should have won and lost that game, and then last night against UConn, and John Scheyer, who, I want to be careful when I say this. I think coaching absolutely matters, but the dude has inherited the best lineup available out there. Like, from top to bottom, you look at the rosters, nothing's going to compare to what he has. It's phenomenal. Best talent out there, highest paid budget, like whoever Duke wants, Duke probably is going to get. And what's he doing with it? They ain't going to the Final Four, that's for sure.
And they played with fire all tournament long, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Even the 16-1 game.
Yeah. Yeah, they played with fire, absolutely.
And as the tournament's gone on, the more shakier they've felt. And last night, it bit him in the butt. You're up 19 against UConn. Just park the car in the driveway. And they couldn't get it done. Now, what you saw, too, and again, as much as we don't like Dan Hurley and as much as he annoys all of us, the dude can coach. And the dude's tough. And teams often replicate their coach. If you've got a tough, angry, hard-nosed coach, more often than not, your players are going to act like that because you're tough on them in practice. You're tough in what you expect out of them. Now, I don't know how tough John Scheyer is, but the dude doesn't exude a lot of that nasty mentality that you see out of Dan Hurley. Now, I don't know what he's like behind the scenes. I know Mike Krzyzewski always had that stoic attitude, and I guess he was a miserable SOB behind the scenes, and his teams took on that same kind of ideal, that same kind of premise. So maybe it's not fair for me to say that about John Scheyer, but one guy is really angry, tough, all the stuff that annoys you as a fan watching him on the sidelines, but his teams act like that. And so they're down 19. They're not going away. They're not giving up. You can't just kick that team to the curb and say it's done. No, they fought. They got ugly. They did what they needed to do, and they got themselves back in the game, and they made winning plays. There are some teams out there that just know how to make winning plays. UConn, from a talent standpoint, they have no business being in the Final Four. That team should not be playing at all. All right, Duke's far and away better than they are, talent-wise. But when it comes to upstairs and what's beaten in the old chest, UConn's got it, Duke doesn't. They just don't. They don't have it. And it's kind of fun if you're an anti-Dookie to see that team melt down, but also I think it's indicative of a head coach. And trust me on this one. Look, I have not listened to any Durham sports radio. I haven't dialed into what's going on in the Triangle today in North Carolina. But I can safely assume that there's a lot of Duke fans that want blood, that they want a head on a platter. And the only thing that makes them feel even remotely better today is the fact that North Carolina blew a 19-point lead in their loss earlier in the tournament as well. So you got Duke and North Carolina both blowing 19-point leads and both having exits far sooner than they would have expected. Whenever a one seed wets the bed like that, people notice. It was bad. It was just so bad. But boy, was it entertaining too. It was a fun game. Fun tournament. All right, so when you look at your Final Four, I hope I'm wrong on this. And knowing me, I probably am. But if you look at what's coming up this weekend in Indianapolis, you got Illinois and UConn. You got a 3 seed and a 2 seed. Okay, that's going to be fun, and I actually think UConn will probably win. I don't know. I'm going to probably take Illinois in that game. I like how Illinois is built. But what's really a shame, and why I think we need to, everybody wants to look at the NCAA tournament, and they want to expand it, and they want to make all these changes. I don't touch the expansion at all. I don't mess with that one bit. What I do, though, mess with is when you get to the Final Four, you reseed. Because that Michigan-Arizona game, that's your national championship. And if it's not, it's because the two teams beat the hell out of each other, and whoever wins that Illinois-UConn game can take advantage of it. But the two best teams in college basketball by a mile are Michigan and Arizona, and it's not close. So it bums me out that those two teams are playing for a spot in Monday's title game when if you really wanted to really accelerate the tournament and really make it a little bit better, you reseed them. And you put Michigan against, let's see, that would be Arizona would be the higher seed, so it would be Arizona against Illinois and Michigan against UConn. Look,
whatever we need to do, just make sure we have the best game as your championship. That's what needs to happen.
When Monday rolls around, you want the best
two teams. Yes,
yep. That's not too much to ask for. So if you're out there and you want to rework the NCAA tournament, and you're thinking, okay, let's add this. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you need to go past 68. Frankly, I think you probably should go back to 64, but that's just me. But I get it. You're good. 68, and eventually it's going to go to 74. We get it. You want more money. But if you really want to improve the tournament, reseed the top 4. And I think you frankly should, because when you're dealing with regions like that, that's, essentially you're going to have teams in the same, in regions are determining where they're going to play. Not necessarily the best teams 1 through 4 in terms of the seeding them in regards to, okay, we want this number 1 team to play this 4th number 1 team in the semis and the number 2 number 1 team and the number 3 number 1 team to face off each other. They don't do it like that. They're like, okay, hey, Michigan or, whoever was the number 1 overall seed, guess what? You get to choose where you go. Okay, you want that region? Okay, that's yours. And everybody bases it on geography because they want their fans to attend. And the NCAA tries to accommodate that for their fans, which fine. Okay, cool. Do that in the first rounds of the tournament. But when you get to the Final Four, those fans are coming regardless. So you don't have to worry about that nonsense anymore. And it's already a predetermined site. So reseed it. Reseed the thing. NFL does it. You go to the NFL playoffs. Hey, you know what? This team knocked off this team. Well, guess what? The number 1 seed went down. Okay, who's the number 2 seed? Well, guess what? Now you have home field advantage the rest of the way, and now you're playing the wild card team that came out of this. It just makes too much sense. So instead of worrying about all this other nonsense, just reseed the Final Four. That's all you have to do. You don't have to reseed after every round. You don't have to reseed in terms of anything else. Sweet 16, Elite 8, don't worry about any of that. Just reseed the Final Four. They're all in the same spot. It's super easy. Come on. Why are we making this hard? It's not that hard. All right, 1245, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Cam Walker, athletic director at Utah State, will join us right here on the Zone.
This is Mike Boilo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Springfest means more sun, more fun, and more free at Lowe's. Keep your yard in line with an additional free Ego 56-volt battery when you buy a select Ego mower, trimmer, or blower. Plus, keep landscaping fresh with Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil, 5 bags for $10. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 4/8 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
This is Mike Boilo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What you may have missed right here on the Zone. As always, brought to you by our friends at Paris RV. Want to thank them for being a part of the station as we take a look at the going-ons. Maybe we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I tell you what, some great things going on with the Utah Mammoth. And again, what you may have missed, brought to you by Paris RV. Visit the full inventory at parisrv.com. All right, so we just mentioned it in that update, but what a game, what a absolute beatdown by the Kings. All right, so our resident hockey expert, Lloyd Cole,
really
joins us now.
Hi.
No, you're on board, man.
I am. I don't know if I'm an expert. But yeah, that was a heck of a game, and I think after watching that first period, they were up 3-1. And I was like, wow, if this team, in fact, I put it out there on social. I said, if all games were just a 1-period game, this team would be the best team in the NHL because they come out quick and they put a bunch on you, and then they had sometimes they let teams get back in there, but they did not this time around. They kept the foot on the pedal.
That's what was
6-2.
Great to see. Yeah, because, and make no mistake, when they're up 3-1, don't think they don't have Alex Ovechkin running through their minds.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's running through the minds of every. Like all of a sudden, if they let the Kings score a goal there and it becomes a 3-2 game at any point, which by the way it got a little interesting. I was wondering, I was like, man, are they going to allow another goal here? Because the Kings were putting on some pressure, keeping it in the offensive on the offensive side, and they were able to clamp down, get another goal, make it 4-1. And you're like, okay, there's a little bit of breathing room because all of a sudden 3-2 becomes, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again. And then all of a sudden the pressure starts on the offensive side and struggles, and it was good to see them turn it around.
Yeah.
Keep it going, should I say.
And that's what I thought was super impressive, too, is you had a lot. I mean, you got the Kings that are battling, trying to get back in the mix. You've got a lot of teams that you're fighting for playoff positioning. You got teams right behind you praying that you're going to lose. And you just given up a hat trick to Ovechkin at home. So how do you respond? Boom. Big one. We'll talk to Bill Armstrong, who it's always funny when and this is This is what we've noticed in hockey, and this will be the case when the Jazz get good again, which hopefully will be next year, is that there's waves to a season. And you kind of forget the ebbs and flows of a season because you're going to be looking at a team next year in the Jazz that will go on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, and then you'll see a team that will go on a 3, 4, 5 game losing skid. Well, we've seen that out of the Mammoth this year, and every Tuesday it gets a little different. You know, some Tuesdays it's like, hey, Bill, your teams are red hot. What's going on? And then there's sometimes where you're like, Bill, your team is ice cold. What's going on? You know, and that's and it can turn just like that. And to see that this team took a really ugly loss and flipped it around and went on the road and knocked off a good team, not a great team, but a good team in the Kings. I think it shows you that this team's able to put the hammer down when they need to. And you could tell this team was really upset with themselves after that Washington loss. Like, that one hurt.
And they should.
Absolutely.
Like we talked, they had a 3-1 lead in that one. They had a 3-1 lead, and they ended up losing that one. So it was good to see them, be able to do that.
So the Mammoth, as we mentioned, will have a few days off, and I'm sure that'll be helpful. They do not play until Thursday. This team is
big
stacked
game,
together
a
big, against Seattle, for sure.
A team that's chasing them. That's about 7 points behind them. Mammoth right now, they sit with 82 points, 5 points better than Nashville in that that second wild card, and then now 6 points better than the Kings, who they just beat. So they definitely want that first wild card spot. They need that first wild card spot. You don't want to have to play the Avalanche.
All right, so I want to know in the Lloyd Cole house, and I'm going to make a guess here, and I know you're not jersey guy. But if you were buying a jersey for Xavier,
okay,
not necessarily who he would pick, but who you would pick for him. You've turned into a bit of a Kerfoot fan.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going. You know what?
Because
I don't want to go. I don't want to go with what everybody else has. I don't want to go with the Cooley or the Gunther.
Yep.
I want to do something that's a little bit.
You know
different.
which one I would go with?
Who?
If I was picking out a jersey for my kid, but I got to choose it, Sergachev.
Okay, I do like Sergey.
Yeah.
You know, my kids. You know what one they would want, right? Well, you want to know what Xavier wants? He wants a Cole jersey.
Oh yeah,
because the last name Cole.
That
and
makes
by the
sense.
way, the number. His number.
Oh, really?
28.
Well, yeah, you have to do that
He
now.
wants the Cole jersey.
Yeah, you have to do that.
He wants the Ian Cole jersey.
How did he come up with 28? Was it assigned to him?
I have no idea. He didn't take my 10. 10 was my number. I tried to push him in that direction. He didn't want it.
Well, it's probably because of Bo Nix. Probably ruined that.
Stop it. It's not Bo Nix. I don't know how he got to 28. Buster Posey, maybe. Maybe it was Buster Posey. Might have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
By the way, do you see that fight I sent you on socials in the crowd at the Dodger game?
Yes. It's not a shocker. Dodgers fans are the worst.
What is it about Dodger fans behaving badly in the stands?
They're such a classless group.
You're in one of the best, most
How
iconic
could you possibly fight,
stadiums.
by the way? Everything's going well for you.
Exactly.
What do you have to fight about?
Come on. Your team's spending millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in payroll, more than anybody else.
You're winning as a fan base. What do you have to fight about?
You should be kumbaya-ing the heck out of those games, man.
But no, not Dodgers fans.
Life is good.
You're going to fight with one another no matter what.
Quit your complaining. All right. That's what you may miss. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. As always, brought to you by Paris RV. All right, fired up for our next guest. He is the athletic director of Utah State University, Cameron Walker. He will be joining us coming up next as we will chat the hiring process. We'll see how much he lets us behind the curtain as to how this thing went down and why Ben Jacobson separated himself from the rest of the crew. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Do you love rom-coms? Do you wish you could talk about Christmas movies year-round? Then we have the perfect podcast for you, Hallmarkies Podcast. Throughout the year, we cover all things romance, holiday, and Hallmark, including recaps of every Hallmark show, like When Calls the Heart and The Way Home. You can also get loads of bonus content covering shows like Bridgerton, Sweet Magnolias, and just like that. We are an all-female group of friends who are passionate for these shows and movies and give our honest opinions as well as gush over what we love so much. But that's not all. Every Monday, there are interviews with all your favorite actors, writers, directors, and more. Check out Hallmarkies Podcast on all your podcast providers and on YouTube. That's Hallmarkies Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
¿Quieres mejor internet? Cox Internet de 300 megas tiene las velocidades rápidas y confiables que buscas. Perfecto para streaming y gaming y trabajar desde casa. Yeah. Todo por solo $45 al mes cuando agregas Cox Mobile. Incluye equipo de Wi-Fi y garantía de precio de 2 años en tu plan. Yeah. No esperes. Cámbiate hoy a Cox. Requiere Cox Mobile Gig Unlimited. Garantía de precio no incluye impuestos y cargos. Velocidad de datos móviles se reduce después de 20 gigas al mes.